Down, I said, don't let me down. I won't let you down. I said, don't let me down. I won't let you down. And we'll all hold hands and drink to each other's good health. And we'll all make plans to thank the Lord that we're boys. And the more we...
Hi, welcome to Scrum and Disorderly podcast. We're joined this week by our guest, Steve Powell, I'd like to say a former centre of Neath, but you did, is it true you played every single position, including prop?
I did, yes.
I was told, bear in mind in those days, obviously there was no substitutions, only for injury. I was told a certain John Davis left the field in order for you to play, to finish your bingo card, playing a tight head prop.
Yeah, I think Clanganach away was, right. Yes, yeah.
And obviously with Paul, he played only prop. Is that right? That is right, isn't it?
I did play wing on rugby league, actually, believe it or not. I was a fast prop. But look more like a prop now than I did when I was propping. I put on weight gradually throughout the years. I was 8.5 pounds when I started off. Put on gradually from there. You got all sorts of appearance records.
Yes.
109 games, am I right, for Neath?
Correct.
Consecutively.
Yes.
Which, if that was every Saturday, would be incredible enough. But in those days, you play about twice a week as well, didn't you? So
mostly, yes. We played mostly twice a week, and like you said earlier, that what I was lucky with the appearances is that there was only 2 subs, and only when injured. So if one went off, I could play forwards or back. So I would always sort of slot into positions which would normally not normally be my own. Sorry.
Well, but and also the thing is, in those days, you would only ever get off the bench if someone broke a bone, wasn't it?
Yes,
or knocked out.
One, yes,
yeah,
yes.
You weren't like someone's tired or pulled a muscle. They were not acceptable reasons for making a change, were they?
That's right. Yes.
You know.
Yeah. So it's it was. That's why I played flank a few times. But I did start a game of flank against Neath.
Yeah.
You played the blind side and I played open side, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I played scrum half a few times as well. But I was quite lucky, I suppose, that I started at a young age playing at scrum half and full back, and I think you could see a lot of the game from there, you know. So when positions changed, and my body shape changed as well, mind, you know.
Yeah.
I got a bit more chunky as I get older, like you said, Paul. The forwards didn't even bother me. I wasn't scared to play in the forwards, you know.
Well, talking about, I remember I played front row, played prop in one game, and it was in a Welsh trial in Valencia, right? And it was when they brought the yellow cards out, and Hugh and Mike Griffiths from Bridgend got yellow carded. Les Peard was reffing out there, and we got to the next scrum, and everybody's looking around. I was looking around, and everybody's looking at me, and I was thinking, oh, right, so I'm going up, yeah? So I was the only one saying you can see the game clearer. I was the only one in Valencia. I could see my house in Neath. Right? Oh my God, I was getting Staff Jones. Honest God, he said afterwards, he said, I couldn't let a back rower scrimmage against me and do well, so I had to go max out. And I was sort of taking my head out of my arse and thinking, yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. But
I was very lucky though. My one appearance at prop was that Di Joseph was the other side.
Yeah.
And I went down for the first scrum, and apparently the boys from Clanganach had played for Neath. So we went down and we had sort of channel 1 ball. Yeah. And I said, I'll go in scrimmage. Whoever said the ball comes in, I'll scrimmage, he said. Huh? Yeah. So the ball went in, we won the ball, out they came. So we got the next scrum, and the bloke went down for the scrum. We saw sides then because they was there put in. Yeah. So the bloke went down for the scrum, and the bloke said to me, Di said to me, if I mess you up, he said, he's going to sort, well, I can't say what he said to me, but he's going to put me in hospital, he said. So I said, what we'll do now, we go down and have a cuddle. So there'll be cuddle for the rest of the game then. It wasn't so bad as one real scrummaging is, I suppose, because Di put the fear of hell into him, you know.
And they're like, Steve, scrum's over ages ago. Like that. Oh, hang on.
Let's keep on cuddling.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, it was a different period of rugby. And unfortunately, Welsh rugby was rocked by some really sad news last week. Mark Jones, of course, legend of the game, world-class player. There's going to be a lot of reflecting on his career in the media what a career he had, but on a human level, obviously a family man. It's such a tragic loss on a human level. You guys both played with him, both teammates of him. Do you have any memories you can reflect on?
Well, he was just obviously a 100% committed player. He was the game against New Zealand says it all about him. Really, he was outstanding against New Zealand. He matched them with physicality and everything. But most of all, he was such a lovely bloke, off the field. He might have kicked a few heads in the field and things like that. But off the field, he was such a lovely, lovely man. And a great company to be in.
Yeah, look, sometimes things happen in life, you get a shock, an absolute shock, and that sort of stops your world. And when I heard the news last week, and we all heard the news, it was one of those ones where you have to either hear it again or read it again or find out, and it's just incredible. And obviously, with all of us here, our sort of sincere condolences go out to Mark's family, and friends, but where do you start? An absolute icon. What he did at Neath, and then translated that into the national, translated into rugby league, GB rugby league. Just an absolute sort of giant of a man. And I think, playing for Neath, what he did was he lifted us as a team because of that level of physicality where you felt bigger and stronger. But also then opposition were like, oh God, it's him, type of thing. So it was a double whammy. We were up and they were slightly back. And
I think teams were very wary of him, and the opposition teams were very wary because he could pick up all from a scrum. Those first few yards off the back of a scrum was phenomenal with him, weren't they?
Oh my God! And the thing, I suppose, what's mark of a top player is if you can repeat what your strengths against anybody, so as you said, the New Zealand game, he was outstanding. Seeing him play for Wales, he was outstanding. Playing rugby league, he was outstanding. So, his game translated to whichever game he was playing at the time against whatever opposition. We can all run riots against maybe lower teams, but can you deliver that at a higher level? And he could, but it's
tragic.
Yeah, and we've heard it over the last week or so, and it's been, people have asked, every time someone mentions it, it's as if it's like you're hearing for the first time. It's just incredible, and absolutely gutted, and a big, fit guy, strong guy, and as you said, off the field, I remember I played for Warrington. He was down with Hull, and I was having my usual game where the home supporters had turned on me, and and to be fair, Mark jumps out the dugout and starts threatening the Warrington supporters, and he's doing it because they give him e-stick. He's on the other team, and that just shows that he, how much of a true sort of, how much passion he had for his team, his teammates, and people.
It's a mark of the man.
Yeah,
and as a player, he scored lots of tries. He's a try-scoring machine. But you sort of debated then the intimidation that players felt. I spoke to, it won't be fair to name him, I spoke to somebody recently who was a former international himself, played for Swansea, and he'd say that the boys would play, if Mark was on the field, the forwards would be taking a kick off like this.
Yeah.
Because they knew he was on the field.
Yeah.
And what a level of intimidation.
Yes, exactly, yes.
Tough as teak.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's just, again, as you said, from a human point of view, just a massive tragic loss. But reflecting on a career which was incredible.
But I think as well, what Mark had, that the supporters loved that brutality and the force. The Neath supporters loved that, didn't they? But the other loss we had is Stevie Dando and Brian Williams. They were the same sort of that niche of a player. They wouldn't take a step back, would they? Like they'd always go front foot and take anybody on. Never be beaten by them.
No.
Three great players we've lost. From that sort of pack.
The pack at the time, you played in that. Phil Pugh, another very similar player to Mark in terms of just that
great player,
brutal mentality of toughness. This kind of it doesn't exist anymore because a lot of the rules have changed and the game has moved on, and toughness means something different now. Really, look at somebody like Jack Morgan. He's a tough boy and he puts his
body on the line.
His body on the line. But those any memories of sort of not transgressions and dirtiness, but of the way that the opposition would react then to that Neath pack of the 80s and 90s?
Well, no, it was, I mean, like, Thomas had this mentality, which was right, was starters and finishers, starters. So, like,
Brian Thomas,
yeah.
Supremo at the club.
And that was his approach. And starters would be, from a static situation, someone to carry the ball across the game line just to get the flow of the game back in. And finishers would be when we're up that try line, we're going to score. So you'd have some people who were clearly starters, some people were clearly finishers, right? There weren't that many, not that many, but to be able to be part of both. Like, Mark would start from a scrum, and there's a video up on YouTube when we're on halfway, and he picks up from the scrum. And to be fair to all the English teams, they were big. They were big players, and just flicking them up, brushing them aside, and then 30 metres down, so we're then back row catching up with him, picking balls up, going again, because there's no defence there, do you mean? But also near the try line, he was lethal. So he ticked the box of exactly what Neath needed. I mean, so he could start, he could finish, but also all that intimidation, that physicality. And remember clearing out Mark Ring against Cardiff. I know a lot of these, which are amazing rugby moments. I remember against Caerphilly in the Cup in the stadium, he cleared somebody out. You'd probably get a ban for them because they are just fits. But at the time they were perfect, and actually just head on, just flying in and clearing people out. So there's not many parts of a game of what you'll want to look at, and I suppose the testimony would be he would comfortably be playing in this era. That's probably the testament I could say. But then you had Brian Williams, a starter, Mauls. And he'd
pinch the ball for anybody, wouldn't he?
He'd be going in last sometimes, and then he'd come up with the ball. And then he gets on, either if he didn't go and score, he was like, get us on the front foot, wouldn't he?
The fantastic individual, but he suited that sort of team. Our game was loose and fast, and people like Mark and Brian, Phil Pugh, people like that, suited our game, because even Hugh Richards, mind you,
yeah.
You look at the tries that Hugh Richards scored. He scored a lot of tries for second row, But that was our mentality. It was our game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The ball was always moving, and it suited the whole team, really, didn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't want to, obviously we're really grateful that you're here with us today, but I can remember you complimenting that as well, because and there wasn't there was a few little plays in the backs, but it was once we were behind, they were just playing hands and getting it. And I remember one time, and it was right down the main stand, and I'm sort of in the back, like coming around behind the back line, and you're going down the touchline, you're on the end of the line for some reason. I don't think you were playing wing that day, but that's where you were. And then the famous Steve Powell dummy, which is the only two people outside you are the touch judge and the crowd. And I think even the touch judge dropped his flag and went like that, and everybody fell for it. And then, do you mean that was a bit of a trademark. I was just throwing a dummy to absolutely nobody, like, and making a break.
Not many of them more.
No. It was good. And you and say Di Jacob with Elgin Rees at the end of the line.
Elgin, all the people I met in rugby, and I met some wonderful people, But I think Elgin perhaps is the only real gentleman I've ever met in the sport. A true, real gentleman. He was a great man. When I came to Neath to play, he was a Wales and British Lion, you know what I mean? And he could have gone to play for anybody, because Neath were poor at the time, But he stuck with us through thick and thin, he could have gone anywhere. And he's a real top man, and a really top man.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to change the title of my autobiography now, so I was going to put down the gentleman of rugby, but obviously Elgin's the only gentleman you've ever met.
In the sport.
Yeah, he was class, wasn't he? I remember that time where
real gentleman.
Jiffy did that against Netley. Remember that little reverse drop out and checked. Once Elgin got the one thing I noticed now, once Elgin got the ball and he was on about halfway, and there was no way that they were going to stop him.
The one that I always remember is, I think it was when I played, is the best win ever was Bath away.
Oh yeah,
and he had an interception, didn't he?
And
he went from about 60 yards to score the try, and they hadn't lost for 2 years at home. Bath.
No.
That was a fantastic achievement, I thought. And I think he was captain that day as well. That's what I mean.
Well, I remember that because I think that's where Brian Williams popped his shoulder.
He did, yes, that's right, yes.
And then so that was an injury that somebody had to come off the bench, which was me. And I think Steve Dando probably went up to scrum to prop, and so I ended up playing about the last 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah. That was a great win.
Oh yeah. I was celebrating as if I'd played the whole game. I was on for last. But they had, I tell you what, talking about Brian Williams, after that game, we had, I think it was Clive Penale, wasn't it? Was the physio who was from Trebanos, and the way to qualify at the time to become a physio was be totally unqualified, isn't it?
Have a bucket and a sponge.
Yeah, that was it. I think he turned up first time with no water. Dirty water. All right, so he turned up and they were like, no, Clive, get off, this is serious type of thing. And he stayed in Thomas's house, and I was living there as well, Brian Thomas's. And so in the morning then, that's what we could hear from upstairs was, fucking hell, oh my God, fucking hell. And Brian Williams, like, he had to be in pain to start screaming in pain. And what I was, they couldn't put his shoulder back. So he was in bed, and the only way he could relax, was actually lift his arm up there and lean on it. What he'd done then was put his other arm up to try and balance out and pop the other shoulder as well. So he was upstairs, like, I had both shoulders out.
Well, we played in London Welsh. I don't know if we played in London Welsh. And I was in a mall, and the mall collapsed, and his shoulder came out. And so he was screaming, so we got up from the mall, and he was like, see, and the physio came on. I know it was Simon Webb on there, and he ran on, and he said, leave me. He put his shoulder back in, and he went to a scrum. But another funny thing with Brian was that he had a bad shoulder, and I had at the time a bad ankle. So Thomas said, we're playing Bridgend away. He said, we got to play Saturday. He said, we'd give him a cortisone injection. So have you seen them?
Yeah.
So I never had them, until then. So we go in the change room, and Doc was there, his white shirt and his tie on, his club tie. And he said, boys said, Brian, ready for injection? Yes, because you strip off first, no top off. Yeah. So I was getting undressed my ankles, and so he jumps on the couch, and I jumps on the couch next to him in the bed, So he sticks this needle into Brian, and he goes, can I swear and tell you? Fucking hell. And he put it in, he's to find the owner. Yeah. And the blood shot out on Doc's shirt, there's been shot,
Yeah, good.
So he pulls it out now, and he said, Steve, I'll change the needle, and you'll be next. Mine's much better now. I said, I think I'll strap mine up. If it hurt Brian, it's going to kill me, innit?
Rolly only ever had Botox injections.
What makes you think that?
But he was out his nails running though, Brian.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, Mark and Brian are pretty much.
Well, the same.
That's why it's so shocking.
Yes,
the early passing of both of them. They were seen as more than men almost. Yeah. So Asma, what are your memories of Mark, like in the just on the bus and kind of outside of playing the game? What sort of character was he?
Oh, great company. Great company. Yeah. He thought he was the best in the world, didn't he? Yeah. He was best looking,
Yeah. Yeah, he was. He was, because we'd have, especially when we playing away, and the further away, the crazier the trips went. But like from, let's say, playing up in Pontypool or something like that, so you got an hour and a bit home. We had to give him a charge. On
the bus, innit? Tackle the bus.
Yeah, so one in the front of the bus, one in the back, and then you charge, and then whoever wins that collision. And I tell you, who and there was a couple of people who didn't want to have. I think Mark would have been the top of the table, but the other one I didn't want to have, and I did have once, was Colin Leahy.
Strong boy, isn't he? Yeah.
I know he was. I didn't realise those chairs were so comfortable when he put me on my ass. But
back in the bus.
Yeah, it was never. I don't know. We'd have a few, but it wasn't like a massive. It was all like give him a buzz and.
Yes, we weren't. We were good for ourselves, we weren't nasty, were we? No. But because we pulled together as a team as well, didn't we? Like, we all get on, didn't we? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It was really, really good.
Oh yeah, and you could have, like when we were saying before, playing buzz, and if you got it wrong, the one on your left, the punishment was punch you in the face, and if everybody didn't think that was bad enough. then you'd punch him back. So like, I remember, I think it was the next to, he didn't catch, it wasn't me, whoever was sitting next to die, and Die's like, oh, hey, I'm sorry, but, you know, he knew we had to give him a proper punch, otherwise he's having one back, like, oh, sorry about this.
Wouldn't die Morgan, would you?
No. No, so, yeah, it was, you know, like...
Because when I came to play for Neath, you know, we weren't a great team, but we had people like Mike Richards and Stevie Dando, Gazzy Jones, Cliffy Morgan, even, you know, and Carl Knight, which were local boys from the club, you know, and they were really the basis of a team that was going to go forward, you know. And then we brought in Di Morgan, different world with Di. Like Mark, from a scrum, I've never seen even Mark, you know, I mean, Di would pick a ball up, but no matter who was there, he'd get through it, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. I remember playing against Cardiff, John Scott was the number 8 then, he was playing for England, wasn't he? And he ran over John Scott as if he won there, like, I mean, fantastic acquisition for our club, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then we brought in Barry Clegg, and we won line-up ball, and the game expanded through there.
Yeah, game, definitely. You know? Because the sort of... the groundwork that the boys you mentioned, yourself, and, you know, like in the tough times leading up to about 80, I think 84 was cup final, was like a light bulb moment where...
Yes, we can go further as a club, you know, I mean, yes.
And then Thomas then, you know, sort of put some extra people in there, you know.
Yeah, and people like myself who had been to Swansea and hadn't made it, you know, and people like Barry Clegg who would follow up in Swansea, you know. And the other one was Robbie James, who was a great player, mind you know what I mean? He'd followed in Bridgend, and he came to play for us. He was then, like, with injuries, Robbie. I think he would have played for Wales as well, you know what I mean? Because he was a great player, I mean, you know. Yeah. Well, he took my place. He shoved me on the wing then, didn't he, you know? But he was a great player, I mean, but we had players who weren't accepted in other clubs, but we had something in our club which had been the best out of people.
Was
you know what I mean?
Misfits, a team of misfits.
It
definitely worked for us. And sorry, talking about Robbie James. I was good friends with him. He was funny. Not only that, he was a great player. And he was. But he was such a good laugh and everything. But I remember asking him, because he played in the Wales A team that went to France, and they beat France A over there, first time ever in the Welsh history. And all those players from that Wales A eventually got capped, except Robbie, right? And they said to him, I said, like, well, you know, why? What's the reason why? And he said that, he was telling me, right, and the next day, obviously, they'd been out on the night drinking wine and all that stuff like that. And the late John Dawes was team manager, and walking through like that, and Robbie's sitting there, you can imagine, with all the boys around him, he's like that. John, and John's turns around with his blazer on, like his shirt, and like that, he goes, John, what do you have for breakfast? Beach ball and chips. Like that. And you could see, he knew, like, so that look, straight away, he knew. Well, there we are.
That's the end of my career.
That's my cap gone. But,
here I come.
But no, it was so funny, like, him.
He was a great company, great company. But a great player as well, mate. Really good, really. Yeah, he had that dodgy hamstring, and
Mike Carrington, remember it?
Another great player, wasn't he? He went north and he was Stewart, didn't he, to that end, so. But he would have played for Wales as well, I think, mind you.
Every time he had the ball, he was going to score, and he did.
Yeah, he was a great player.
Big, you know, like.
And the other one, he'd play for Cardiff, you know. But he got banned for life from Cardiff Rugby Club for biting him in the committee's ears. He's from Powell, wasn't he? So he got banned for life from Cardiff Rugby Club. So he came to play. He played for Aberravon as well, I think, you know. So he came to play for us then, and he was a great player. Wasn't it?
Well, he has some great backs. You talk about that period that Thomas built up from a base, really, that was sort of tough pack, and then you got line-out jumpers, winning ball, and you forget in the backs, as well as like as yourself, with Jonathan Davis, Alan Bateman, previous guest of ours, you know, Carrington, Paul Thorburn at the full back. So that was building to that point where you were the greatest. Yeah,
and Gary Tucker.
Gary Tucker, he's fast when he fed with him.
And he ended up, because you know that type of the injury at the time, unless it was obvious. He played something like 4 or 5 games with the broken bone. He was like a bit sore, and he could carry on. And then eventually he was like, no, it's just sore. And when he got x-rayed, he had a broken bone.
And of course we had Adrian Davis and Graham Davis, you know. I thought Graham would have been out the national man, because I thought he could run at people and just go past people. It was amazing ability that.
Higgsy was good.
Chris Higgs is super fast, wasn't he?
Higgs, fastest copper in Wales. On the other wing at
And
the
the shortest
time, Alan Edmonds.
Yeah.
The great
Oh, yeah.
Gobbo.
What a character!
The great Gobbo.
He scored that try against New Zealand, as he'll remind you every time you see him. And he remember because he was a bit of a character, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, he was, wasn't he? Like,
Well, me and Alan were big buddies, like, and the great Gobbo we used to call him, I mean,
Yeah.
because he couldn't stop talking, see, like, you know. But after a while, you just give him a flip and he'd be right then, like, you mean, but he scored, you know, one of these persons that he could score tries, couldn't he? I think he holds the club record, I think. Like Mark, I think Mark holds the club record for forwards.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but yeah, he scored some lot of tries. No, mind you, he had some good service, mind you. know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, he scored a lot of tries. I mean,
Yeah.
and he suited the our team at the time. I don't think he tackled much, mind, but he could score a lot of tries. Like, you know. But they didn't want Jonathan. We also Jonathan came. My fourth game was Jonathan's first game, you know. And when I came to play for Neath, I'd been playing outside half for one of mine, so I wanted to be outside half, see, like, you know. And all my games were on the wing at the beginning. I played centre in this Jonathan's first game. And I know it's silly, but our man can give you that much more time on the ball, you know. I mean, either by taking the pressure off you because he was so good that people wanted to get at him and leave you with it. But even his passing, you know, he'd have that fraction a second, which means so much on a rugby field, and give you much more time for you to do something with it, you know what I mean? And he was the greatest player I ever played with, like, you know what I mean?
He's exceptional. And
Only trouble was he went to play for Clare.
Yeah, I know, but the thing was, right, everybody sort of went, oh God, you know, he's gone. But Thomas had the right approach. Brian said, oh, I'm thinking of, you know, it's Leslie and Jiffy will say this himself. And Thomas goes, okay, good luck. You know, he wasn't going to be trying to convince somebody to play for Neath. You either want to play for Neath or you don't. But Paul Williams comes along.
A better club player than Jonathan, perhaps. A team player than Jonathan, but Jonathan had so much flair. Different players.
Yeah,
but Paul Williams was a great player for us, mind you, know.
We became a more complete team in a way.
Yes, more team, yes.
It's an awkward one because Jiffy could win the game on the.
Yes.
I remember Newport when he just sort of. I think we had a huddle, and I think we said to him, "No, you know, after all the chats about, we need to do this, need to do that," and then eventually he was like, Jiffy, can you score a couple of tries and win the game, please? And off he went and scored a couple of tries and won.
And the other one, of course, was when we played Bath at home with Jiffy, and he showed the ball to Barnes, and just went round him.
He stacked all the backs one side, didn't he? Left all the blind. No, you know, because you always sit away from the middle field. Yeah. You have a centre each side, didn't you? But all one side. Yeah. He ran to Barnes and showed him the ball and then went round him. Didn't you? And I also remember that day as well, because I think Barnes had played for Bristol before he played for Bath, see? Yeah. And when he ran the field, you know, it was all quiet and there's a big crowd there and the cow shed, you know. And the chap goes, "Stewart Barnes, never forget your Welsh." Because of course he's from Newport originally, like, you know. So that was great, you know. And when he showed him the ball, he went him, like, you know. But Jiffy was as fast with the ball, the ball, and it was no steady. And then because when he went north, then I thought he'd make because he was so quick with the ball, you know. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He did.
You know, and he did make it because he was like me on the wing and then but he was like name wasn't he, like, you know.
Well, I played with him in Wellington, in Wales and stuff like that. But when he went, you know, first of all, when he moved to Widnes, everybody was going like, "No way, too small. He's not going to be physical enough." And he proved very quickly that he's big enough, physical enough, big, and obviously the speed was the thing. So
and he was brave as well, mate.
He was brave as well, really gutsy. And then the same thing happened. Then when he moved to Australia, they all said, "Well, no, Australia is even next level up," and he got better over there. He scored some length of field tries and stuff like that. But I'll swing it back and say, no, I really. Paul was gutsy as well when he was
sheep's teeth.
Yeah, he was
nickname. But he was a great player when Paul, great club player.
Yeah. Paul, I don't think was capped, and that sort of mentioned a cohort of players there who were at the club game, sort of right at that top of the level. Alan Edmonds was scoring tries for fun every week, and I know he was on the end of a very good team. I think he had one cap against the Barbarians, didn't get any more. And I remember when Roll Waldron was Welsh coach, I think he picked 5. He was the first selector coach for Wales You had, back in the day, you had the famous five. Would pick, the big five would
pick a team.
Would by committee would pick the team. Then he was the first coach that would pick the team. He picked 5 Neath players, and there was uproar.
Yeah.
Even though Neath was by far and away the best team at the time.
Dominant, yeah.
Within 2 seasons, Alec Evans for Cardiff is picking, I think it was 7 or 8 Cardiff. Nobody said a dicky bird.
No.
And Cardiff were about 3rd or 4th best team at the time.
Yeah.
But what Ron should have done is that when he went to coach Wales, he should have taken the 15.
Yeah.
Because the 15 trusted each other, didn't they, and played for each other.
Well, Warren Gatland did that more or less with the Ospreys in his first game in charge.
And Thomas, he should have taken Thomas with him.
Well, I said that earlier, and I said when Ron went, Ron, for all his, what he did for Neath, you know what I mean, he wasn't the bestest coach in the world, he said to himself, you know what I mean, what he wants, he knows what he wants. But what Brian did, he got that extra 10-15% out of somebody, like, you know what I mean? And that's what the Welsh team wanted at the time. But when Ron went, he's taking Brian as well. Or they should have put Brian in charge of Welsh Rugby.
Yeah.
Because there was we wouldn't be in the state we are now if one for like somebody like Brian to get it right from the start, you know what I mean?
We'll talk about Brian, because we mentioned him a couple of times. He was your father-in-law. Sadly passed away now. He played for Wales. He was I get Cambridge, wasn't he? I get that one wrong because I know he was very passionate at Cambridge and Oxford. Very, very intelligent guy. That Neath club team. I mean, Neath are a small town. Neath had no right to be the best club side in Britain, which we were for a long period. It's largely down to Brian Thomas, who, and we were talking about him off camera earlier. That an incredibly intelligent guy, but a bit bonkers as well.
Yeah.
And it's that mixture, I think, which led to the success of Neath at the time. What you, obviously it's personal for you as well, the insight with him, but as a rugby man, and you mentioned he might have been, he was nicknamed the Ayatollah, because there was no doubt that he was in charge. And now you mentioned perhaps he could have, a figure like him could have turned around Welsh rugby. What your memories of Brian?
Oh, yeah. Well, I say I was there when Brian came back to the club, you know, and our first away trip was sail away, and he never dressed sort of spick and span old Brian like you mean Ferguson, like, you know what I mean? And but I myself, when you go to play for something like Neath, I wasn't expected to play at that level. I loved to have my tie on and my blazer. I thought it was special to have that on, you know what I mean? No, I don't mean special, it's special. And we went away and we stopped. We used to stop on the way up in Coventry, sort of Midlands that way, so, and Swindon normally, and have food, which either fish or chicken you could have. Athletes' food at the time, I suppose, you know. So I sat down and had my chicken, and all the boys had the choice. And Brian didn't have he sat on the bar, and he had a brandy, and he said to the bloke, he said, "Pass me that jar of gherkins." You know the gherkins, the jar they got you over in the bar. And he took the lid off, and while we had our food, he ate every gherkin out. I said, "There's something wrong with this bloke." You know? And that's where he was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he shocked you as well a bit, like, you know. But like I said, if he'd gone into the Welsh setup, you know, he could get more to people. You know, I mean, that's why he was manager of a national business as well, a big business as well, because that plant. He could get more people. Where he can manage people, he could get more to them, isn't it? You know, that's why he was not because, you know, obviously he was a clever man, but he was there for a reason as well, wasn't he? You know, and then when he came to us, he could get more to people, which perhaps we would give 50 or 60%. He'd have 100% out of them every week, or you'd have the elbow, wouldn't you? Like, you know.
I was obviously I'm St David's boy originally, so. Up at Tootley, we hadn't heard much about rugby from Llanelli, so we knew all the Gravels, the Quinells and all that, only because that was west. Yeah. So after Llanelli, the Loch River or whatever, Loch Bridge, we didn't know much about rugby further up there. Well, I was 18 then, came up to Neath, invited up because I played in a county game down in Pembroke Dock. And so when I first got up there, it was Dai Shaw and
Ken Davis?
Yeah. Right, and they said, this walking in, they said, Nolby, and they outside the change room, they said, this is Brian Thomas, and I'm looking up again, I'm sort of going, hello, you know, like, you know, no, and then he's like, and didn't even look at me, he's like, right, there we have this three game approach. Yeah, you have a first game, and and if it doesn't go well, we give you another chance. You have a second game, and if it doesn't go well, he looks at me like that. You'll have your last chance, which is the thing. That was it.
Yeah.
And I was like, and the way people were reacting to him, players and all that stuff, I thought, oh my, this is somebody. And he took me up the club, and he pointed at Jonathan was up the club. He'd had a knee op, or he's injured. And he said, and Jonathan was there, with a full mullet. And he's quite, like sort of, it wasn't like, he wouldn't like to, look at that, what's Astley doing there? He just looked, just whatever. And he goes, see him there? He said, he's going to play for Wales. And my reaction was like that.
Nothing of him, skin and bones bond,
oh my God, are you serious? Like,
nothing of him, was there?
No. And obviously he was right. But I do remember we played in Blackheath, right? To see, like, Thomas he was something else. The union wanted him.
Yeah.
The union wanted him to go there and sprinkle some of the gold dust that he had at Neath. But he just said, look, will I be making the decisions, or am I going into a committee where I suggest and everybody votes? And they said, no, obviously it's a WIO's committee. And he went, forget it, right? Because obviously you're going to say something and outvoted and all that crap. So he didn't, but they were after him, right? But I remember up in Blackheath, and we won actually, I think it was something 20-0. And it was packed in there, not a big club really. And Tom was saying his usual, like, sort of, like in his mind, he's made an effort, right? But it was just like a shirt and some jacket over the top, like that. And people, the English up there were all like sort of like, oh my God,
I think Blackheath, Dickie Bows, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
They have a club title, Club Dickie Bows, Blackheath.
Do they?
Yeah.
And he was like going through, and they were like committee bringing him through probably to the back room and Robbie James, he goes like that, Brian. Right, he said it so loud, and everybody stopped and turned on like that, and Tom was like looking over his shoulder thinking, like that. He goes, lovely party last night, Brian. And he could see Thomas's face like that. Like at first I see he was thinking, but that was Robbie, but it's just it was like somebody who just is going to deliver what they say. He's not going to paint just some kind of picture just to make everybody happy. Whatever he says he's going to do, and what he said he did.
I can remember Roland's first game, and he's changed next to me, didn't he?
Yeah.
He comes around and he goes to Brian, comes in, and he comes on. He goes to me and he says, Powell, don't think, just hurt people. Roland looks at me and goes, what the hell is that?
Yeah. As he said, don't think.
Just hurt people.
There's all sorts of rugby stories, and people talk about they come to the knoll and he'll turn the showers off if he doesn't like them, and also they're talking about mind games. But you mentioned that the plant operator. You had a story recently. We're having some sort of meeting, and he had everybody in a room, and he was again, he's in charge. So he sent a lad down to the shop around the corner. He wanted 20 Marlboro. So he said to him, I want 20 Marlboro. If they haven't got Marlboro, get something else. So the lad comes off about 15 minutes later. So he's not known for his sort of calm demeanour, is he, Brian? So he comes back and he says, what the fuck is that? And he said, you said, if you haven't got Marlboro, get something else. So he bought him a fucking pasty. And we aren't allowed to swear in this, but even on this, it wouldn't be right if I said, I repeat what he gave a full hair dryer treatment. But he was known, we talked about Mark being intimidating. Brian was a very, very, he wasn't called the Ayatollah for nothing.
No, and if we talk to people who played, luckily my wife is Max Richard's daughter, and if you talk to people like that, the respect that he had, Clive Rowlands, who spoke at Brian's funeral, he said, Clive Rowlands said to me, he said, we played against Brian, he said, not against Neath, against Brian, he said, and up in Pontypool, he said, and he said, before the team talk, he said, before the game, he said, listen now, he said, Brian Thomas is a man, he said, we got to take him out of the game. So first line goes up, he said, it's not like now, he said, Stephen Lightness, the old fashioned name, he said, everybody goes in like that, I said, and they all laying to Brian, he said. So Brian's is down on the floor now, so the book comes on the back and he said, like, the sponge him, like, and Brian's nose, he said, right, Steve, he said, it's split, and I only see the cartilage in it now. And so he said, he went there, bent over, said, Brian, you're right. He said, give me a sponge. He said, yep, fine, there's a line up by, he said. Said, I knew, said we're all in trouble now, because if he gets up from this arm ring, we're all in trouble. He said, Steve, he said, we all shit ourselves, he said, like, you know. But that's a sort of, you know, and we all did that. And when he was our team manager, you know, we all were that wary of him, like, you know, like him or love him, you know what I mean? Sometimes I fell out with him once or twice. But it was, everything he did was for the good of the team, you know what I mean? You couldn't nothing else but that, you know what I mean?
So where did you get the pods then to originally date his daughter?
Well, it's my fault as well, is.
What was the situation?
Well, you turned it down. And,
no. It was that Brian phoned me, said, Roland's staying, living there.
Yeah.
Can you take him out for a drink? I said, I got a date now. I'll Sally take out instead. So it's my fault.
Well, what happened was I just joined the police, and I was up in training up in Cwmbran. So I was travelling, and I didn't have a car, right? So I was having a lift with the boys who were coming to Neath, policemen, and then getting out by Ferry Bridge and hitching back down to St David's, right? And I was doing it, I'm not saying. Yeah. And then Thomas said, oh, well, we might as well stay over, right? And you can take this story with a pinch of salt, but I'm telling you, in my mind, my memory, it's true, right? So up to Tillamorris, up to Thomas's house, overlooking Bryn Ferry, there's like a big haunted house. So I've turned up there, and because down west, it was all like, if I go down my friend's house, like jump over the wall, walk through the field, over the hedge, and then down to his house, direct line. So I got there, and I thought, oh, there's the house. Bryn Ferry Rugby Club. I started going up the mountain, you know, like up through the stingies and brambles, and I got about 3/4 of the way up. I thought, this can't be the way up here, like, I just, like, typical. So I came back down, went around the corner. Oh, I'll just take the road up, right? So I went up. So I had to go past the kitchen, because Thomas's the door then was at the back, like surrounded past the kitchen. So I'm going past, and I had about 4 or 5 bags. Marianne, Brian's wife, was going, like, I was smiling, going, oh my God, how long is he staying for? Right? And I had to hide all my stuff, like that. And they looked out, and this is what I remember in my mind. By the time I'd gone past the kitchen window, went round and into the back door, as soon as you opened the door, Sally was standing in a wedding dress. Yeah. All right, oh, welcome. No, I'm always like...
Love Island.
No, we ended up going to Gored. Carnaig was up and everything. So that's how we met. You know, but, he was... I think he was so proud of me. No. The great.
He won for selection, mind.
No. It was. But talking about all the your Mark Jones, Brian Williams. I came through Welsh school, so we more like play. It wasn't so sort of. I don't want to say dirty, but it wasn't less physical. It was more rugby. So I'm playing back row with that front five with the Phil Payne next to me, Mark Jones next to me. That's why he kept the moneymaker looking so good.
Okay then, so heaven forfend on this podcast we get current and talk about what's going on in the rugby world now. There is a Lions tour happening this summer starting in a few weeks' time. It's the smallest Welsh contingent not ever, because there was one where there was none. But for the last 100 years, this is we've never had only two. Actually, we've got more sort of back team members going than we have got players. Jack Morgan and Thomas Williams are the two who are making it. Is this just indicative of the state of Welsh rugby at the moment?
Well, I mean, like, obviously, if the performance and the results of the first team is a state of Welsh rugby, then it is, because there are a lot of really, really good individual players in the Welsh setup, right? And obviously the last 2 years now, like a wooden spoon, then I guess it does reflect that. But there were a couple. I thought Blaine Murray, he was, to me, nailed on in my mind like that. Faletau had pushed his case, as the Six Nations went on, as he's coming back from injury. I thought he might have an opportunity, but it is a reflection of results. You know what I mean? But Wales, as we know, and I'm not defending anything, but I'm just saying there's a lot of rebuilding to do, a lot of building to go, and you don't normally pick players into Lions who are in their development period. They're normally matured and ready to go. But Jack Morgan has and Thomas Williams as well. I don't want to, but Jack Williams Jack Morgan has carried that team. He is, and he's not the biggest of guys either, but like the dog in the fight type of thing. I mean,
and the fight test lion. A lot of competition.
Yeah,
competition. The guys who didn't make that tour. You look at Rory Darge hasn't gone.
Yeah.
Guy Ritchie's a film director.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of even Tommy Raffel.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of good players who've not gone. So and the players were there. Van der Fleer. You'd like to think Jack would be a test lion. I suppose it depends on how he performs on tour.
Well, just on that one is, I haven't seen him play a bad game, whether it's for the Ospreys, whether it's for Wales, and I'm sure he'll go on the tour. And because he's that sort of, he's a fighter. I mean,
up and at
yeah. So he hasn't had no favours. He's just worked hard and sort of got whatever he's got. He's worked hard for. So going on a tour like that, where you've got to start proving yourself or beating other people, I think he'll certainly put himself in the best position.
The only thing with the Lions tours now, there's so many little build-up games to it. Will he get a chance to play in a decent team to get picked? You know what I mean? Because they say we think he's carried Wales, but we're interested to see if like Blair Murray and other people like that were in a different national team, in England team, or where they had more ball and they could express themselves a bit better. How good they would be if they had that chance. You know what I mean? We can't really tell, can we? Like, you know what I mean? But you see, with the two Welsh boys, is that will they get enough chance to prove themselves ready for the test matches? Because years ago they used to play loads of games, didn't they? Like, build up games.
I think Thomas in particular probably proved his case playing for Gloucester, not for Wales.
Exactly, yes. And he's one of the stand-up players for Wales, to be honest. He always plays well for Wales, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, and he's but he makes this happen. He's got that tempo, that energy around him.
Yes.
Plus he's in the short list of 4 or 5 players for Premiership. English Prem Player of the Year. So, there's exactly what an idea of exactly how he's been performing. So, those two would be 100% deserve. But there were a couple of others that you thought maybe slightly unlucky.
He must have been in the conversation. Nicky Smith was probably in the conversation. As you said, I'm not saying he's better than the 3 are going.
Yeah,
I haven't got many complaints, to be honest, about the Lions side that they've gone with.
No.
David Jenkins had a push.
Yeah. No, I agree. And that would be. It's hard for any of those players, really, the way that the team is going at the moment. It's hard to sort of stake a claim through the national team.
Process, isn't it? Yes.
But they're all consistently delivering it at club level, and in a different team, as Steve mentioned, and a winning team, a front foot team, then you probably. Your chances of going on that tour, double, treble.
Because with the Belsh, they've also exciting backs, haven't they? I think but they stifle because they're not enough ball at the moment, is it? If the Welsh backs were with an English team or an Irish team, what would they produce? It's difficult to say, really, because they always defending and they love them,
Yeah, we spoke on an earlier podcast where we spoke to the Lions of whether. I raised a question of whether if there's a 50-50 choice on 1 or 2 players for the third choice in a position, whether because Wales were likely to have a low contingent, that Andy Farrell might, in a way I think Gatland did in previous tours, when it didn't look like Scotland would have many people. But if there was a third choice, perhaps they'd go for a Xander Ferguson or over a Tom Francis just to build up that sort of
numbers.
And be a bit more diplomatic. You said quite rightly, I think, that shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be based on who you think is the best player.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was no Welsh voices on that selection panel to maybe push the case of a David Jenkins over a Cummins from Scotland, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think the way the Wales have played...
Doesn't help them at all, is it?
I mean, it is reflective in that, and it's hard to overly push back, isn't it? Because but I'm sure I don't even know what the standby squad is for cover injuries, but there will be. The only thing I'll say, I think probably about a couple of years ago when when the Lions tour was announced, Australia, looking at Australia, everybody's going like, oh my God, this is going to be probably just, if for want of a better phrase, maybe a little bit of a holiday. You know, Joe Schmidt.
Change around a bit, didn't he?
He's got, and they're looking at from a team that has got no real sort of a big history of the scrum side of it. They can play. They're unbelievable, so creative, and one of the best in the world. But they've always sort of struggled with the scrum. But they're now looking at putting a scrum together that's going to be one of the best in the world. And then you're talking about South Africa as well in that way. So if they can back up with a scrum, it's going to be a tough tour. It's going to be a proper tour, not a jolly at all.
And they've dropped the rule where they weren't selecting Australian players like Will Skelton, Karevi playing abroad. They're allowing them to come in for this. They are targeting that because it only happens every 4 years. We get a Lions tour to enjoy. If you're a home nation, it's once every 12 years.
Yeah.
So they're not going to take it lying down.
No.
Well, that's another dull rule of the Welsh rugby, isn't it? You know, if you go over the bridge to play, you can't play for Wales.
Yeah.
It's a stupid rule because not as if you're travelling thousands of miles to come home, is it? You know.
No.
You know, they're professional sportsmen. They're naturally fit.
Well, you can be closer living in Bristol to training in Cardiff.
Then
Perhaps if it's Scarlets, if you're living further out west, it is daft.
That's a stupid rule, isn't it? You know, if you're good enough, young enough, old enough, you pick your best 15, don't you?
Yeah.
I think myself, for me.
I think something like Rhys Webb got caught up in that 60 cap rule. We probably missed the best part of his career. One point, he was the best scrum half in the world.
Yeah.
We were lucky to have Gareth Davis and back up to him, and then Thomas came through. It's not a position where we're short on options, but Rhys Webb was one that sticks to mind recently that's been caught up in that. There are other players as well.
Well, they've obviously recently dropped it. Is it 25 now? Or?
It's 25. I think the only one actually caught up in it at the moment is Joe Hawkins. And the rumours is he's coming back. Oh, no, he has been signed to the Scarlets.
Yeah.
He's coming back. There's not many actually caught up in it.
No.
But we
it's a stupid rule, isn't it?
Yeah, it is stupid. We haven't got the embarrassment of riches that England have.
No.
If you were playing New Zealand, you can understand it. You know, if you were playing out far away and you could take a couple of days to get home and jet lag and then, but to go over the bridge, it's ridiculous, isn't it? You know, it's a stupid rule.
There's another tour going on this summer. Quite a knock-on effect of only having two players in the...
Sure, we're best team out there.
We've got a strong side going to Japan. Matt Sharrett is still the interim coach. He's extended from the end of the Six Nations. He hasn't taken a development squad, which we've done in the past, because he knows whoever's going to be the coach, that's a monkey off their back, isn't it, if they get a win out there?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
However, and Japan are not the team they were like a few years back during the World Cup they hosted. But it's still a difficult place to go. You've got the conditions.
Yeah.
You've got a certain Eddie Jones there who was absolutely trying to plan our downfall. How do you see the Welsh tour panning out?
Well, look, first of all, I think Sherrod's 100% right. He said, "I'm not. This is not development. This is, for those reasons, and for himself. He's a well respected coach, and he's a good coach. So, what if you put a list down and ask generally across Wales, everybody, write a list of the 10 things Welsh rugby needs at the moment. The first thing they write down is a win. Right? So he knows that, and that's going to be his remit himself, but also with obviously WA as well. Get a win. Japan. If this was, we've never really dominated over there, but if this was 20 years ago, we could celebrate it now. Do you mean? But it's a little bit different now. They're technically so accurate, everything they do. So it's a bit more chaos. If Wales can create a bit more chaos, a bit more counter-attack, a bit more sort of off-the-cuff stuff type of thing, I think they'll get that monkey off their back. I'm sure they will. And it's a shame that we're not 100%. We're saying I'm sure they will, but I think it's a good tour. Scotland. I looked at Scotland's autumns when they played a couple of top 5 or top 4 in the world rugby teams, and maybe a Portugal and a Georgia or something like that, which I thought was right because you got a bit of development within your season. Obviously, we're thinking of revenue, so we're stacking out our autumns with the top teams in the world. So sometimes then, yes, it will bring the money in, but it doesn't work for the confidence, I guess, for the results. But Japan, I'm confident that we're going to get positive results.
They're 13th in the rankings, we are 12th, so on paper it's close.
Yeah.
I got a feeling there might be one or two more Welsh boys called out onto that tour through injuries.
Yes.
We'll wait and see what happens there. But it is a strong squad. They've not gone for people like Morgan Morse, who, again, on previous tours, you'd send him, you'd rest people like Wainwright and Falatau, who you don't need to see what they can do. But as I say, we need to win.
The win is more important than that.
So just to wrap up then, so we've got the 2 forthcoming tours, the predictions for Wales. Are we saying a Wales win?
Yeah.
How many games against Japan?
So
2 tests,
2 tests.
A win, a drawn series, a one win would...
Well, I think we'd win both, I think. And we should do on paper win both. I mean, and on paper plus, but the ability the players have got. And I think I do like the coach, mind you. I like Sheridan.
Yeah,
I think it's something about their mind, you know. And I think as well, if the coach, we do pick a coach, it's not him, he would have a nice little job in it. I give him a job in it because he's good with the kids, isn't he?
That's a specialism.
He's good with the kids. The kids seem to appreciate him, don't they? And I like that with people around. I think he'd do well in a setup anyway. Like, you know, if he wouldn't hedge coach even there, right?
Yeah, and sort of with going back to the question, historically, right? You'd like to think, because definitely what we were in Neath was, you know, you can't do it, or it'll never happen, or you're rubbish, or things. That's when we became our best, isn't it?
Yes.
That determination to stick 2 fingers up to everybody who didn't believe. Right now, if you want to be A, to establish yourself in the Welsh team, B, become your next superstar, your next lion, maybe in the future, then now is your time. But you've got to react to the fact that people write you off now, even before you kick the ball. And that's that sort of mentality that I think, certainly at Neath, certainly with me and you as your career, carried through right through.
Yes, definitely.
Tell me I can't, and I'll do it.
Yes, exactly.
So I go for a 2-0 series win. That's what I would like.
And the Lions?
That's interesting. That's why I'm looking at Steve.
And how many tests there?
3.
Yes. They are discussing at the moment because of what happened when we played the All Blacks.
Yeah.
And it was a drawn series. So we're looking at the golden point that we don't want it drawn.
I think as well, I think it's a really strong Lions squad. I mean, but like we said earlier, with Australia getting better and better, and they're peaking for this, aren't they? They want this, don't they? You know what I mean? And they are great sportsmen, the Australians. And I think Australia will win it.
It's a great series in prospect.
I think Australia will pinch it 2-1. I hate to say it, mind. I hate to say it, but I think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. But you know, you're going to get to the 3rd test. I think.
You hope it's 1-1. I hope so. Right, you know.
Perfect.
But you know, like if you look at, it depends what the combination of the team. Because they will play a brand of rugby that some of these players would not have seen. They're so creative, they're so intelligent, they play, their skill sets are so high that the head down, arse up type of bulldozer mentality, it won't work. A blitz defence, like sort of, you want to push and put in pressure, but you also want the safety of being able to react and push out as well, because they will be very, very
sharp, aren't they?
Very sharp. So,
like Bundyaki, he's great with the ball, isn't he?
Yeah.
But would he have the capability?
All the traffic coming at him, and
would he have the capability to mark them players? You know,
he's hugely creative. As great as he is, and he'd be in my Lions team, no doubt. But
and Schmidt having Irish, you know, and Court Island, and he know all those players. Some of the older players you would have coached coming through.
Yes.
But
he's a great coach.
I'd like to, I don't want to sit on the fence, but I think I agree. Maybe I think we can just sort of power out to 2-1
to the Lions. I think it's definitely 2-1. I can't see it being a 3-0 to anybody.
No.
I think 2. I just might be my optimism, glass half full, but I'm going to go for Lions as well.
Oh, it's just me, innit?
But if it, I can 100% imagine it being 2-1 to Australia as well.
I tell you what, we can all be right. Okay, so if we have another podcast between the second and the third test, and then we can make some really good predictions, especially if it's 2-0.
It's all the bookies.
Yeah. No. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a good summer.
Yeah.
My fathers and never forget about side-burns and side steps and all that before. Now this is your time, boys, it's your turn to score. Singing